All right, ready to have some fun?
Yeah, of course.
Let's roll.
All right.
Well, welcome everybody back to Country Drive Podcast. I am honored to introduce our guest today, E-TAY.
Hello.
You stole the show this summer in the World Series of Poker, by the way.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but yeah, it was quite a fun ride. Um, yeah.
You know, when Blez started commentating the Deuce to Seven
Yeah,
single draw event and Shulman won it, it felt like there was this energy shift where it really went into a
right.
different gear. Do you think it was the
Yeah.
most historic World Series of Poker ever?
It's hard to say because I don't know. I have a ton of respect for kind of like the people that played in the late 90s and early 2000s, and there wasn't a ton of coverage then, and poker wasn't really a mainstream thing. And so I have always kind of felt like I'm sure these really cool things were happening and these accomplishments were happening maybe at like a smaller scale or more just like for what it was in the 90s or the 2000s and whatever. And there's a lot of people that I looked up to when I got into poker, specifically like Jen Harmon, who's like a world renowned mixed game player, and just like somebody like her has had many accomplishments and many big career breaking hands as well, but it just wasn't, I guess, highlighted or televised as much back then. So to answer your question, I think there were a lot of really cool things that happened, and I think we get to see it because of the technology we have in 2025, right? But yeah, I think there were a lot of really just mind-blowing accomplishments and runs that people had. So I guess yes is the answer, but also with respect to the players that have kind of paved the way for us to be here and for these really cool moments to be broadcast.
Just in case people have not, don't know what you did this summer, I did want to get into kind of the $50,000 Poker Players Championship,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
where you made history, finishing third.
Yeah, it
So,
was really cool.
so what was the run like for you?
Well, people ask me that, and it's really hard to articulate because, I've been playing tournaments off and on for a long time, and it's so hard to describe like your emotions kind of going into the World Series. You know that you're going to be like grinding hard. You kind of know what to expect after. I started playing tournaments like in 2007. I played a handful of tournaments at the World Series, and then I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. So I took many years off of that and then came back kind of in 2015. So uh those first years I had basically no experience, didn't really know what to expect, absolutely wasn't prepared, and really didn't know what I was doing. But from 2015 and now it's 20, 10 years later, I kind of know what to expect as far as like the summer tournament grind. But even now, 10 years later, I'm always just kind of a little anxious because there's nothing really to anticipate except for I'm going to go into these 60 days and I'm going to play 14 hours a day and I'm going to do the best I can, and the cards will more fall my way or maybe not, and then your success is always based on how well you perform, but also you're at the mercy of the deck a lot. So it's kind of weird to think like each tournament is a new start, and the expectation is pretty much the same, like go into day one, play as good as you can. If you make mistakes, get rid of those quickly, move on to the next hand. And when you go on a run like I did in the 50K, I'm not like processing it as it happens. It's more just like, okay, I made day two, like same strategy. Go in, try your best, play well, make as few mistakes as possible, keep your attitude good, have fun. It's like this checklist of things. And then all of a sudden it's like day 5, and now obviously in a tournament like the 50K, there's a lot more, media attention and exposure to cameras, and a lot of attention getting. And but even with that, even at that stage of the tournament, I'm still just playing poker. I'm still just playing hands of poker. So it's just, and the reason I explain it like that is because that's how it's kind of always been for me. I've gone on, I haven't won a bracelet yet, but I've been there. And I've been there, several times, and it's always kind of the same process. I don't really process anything until like after, and every day is pretty much the same. And so, the 50K, it was, I've been playing mixed games for a long time. There was a few games in that mix that I was a little uncomfortable with. And so if you were watching the broadcast at all, it was very obvious, like which games I kind of shied away from and which games I like played very strongly. And that's kind of the only thing I was really thinking during that whole 5-day tournament. Is just, navigate this tournament to my strengths, and the result is the result. Like even like the last hand that I ended up busting the tournament with, it's like the result is the result. I in a flip of a card, I could have won that hand and I could be heads up with grinder, or what happened, and that's okay. And I always kind of expect that pretty much in every hand from hand 1 till they say you can't be dealt any more hands in this tournament.
Well, I have to tell you, even before the final table, you were making the table so much fun, and you seem to lighten the mood at some of these tables where they can get a little tense and a little dry.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
really appreciated you for that. And I have to say, Josh Aryeh put on Twitter when going in the final table, if you're not pulling for E-TAY at this table, you need to rethink your life choices. And I've never agreed more with a tweet.
Oh, well, see so Josh is a good friend of mine. So, I had to pay him to say that. No, but like, honestly, that is kind of, my enjoyment of tournaments, because it's a grind out there. It's really grueling. And I tell everybody, like, no one is going into a tournament. I don't care if it's $500 or it's 50,000. No one is entering a tournament trying to lose. Every single person that like goes to the cage, gets their seat, buys in, they're trying to win. So I really understand like the competitive, like, aspect of it, and why most people are very serious, don't want to give away anything physically, things like that. And if you followed my quote unquote kind of career in poker, I've never really been like that. I've always kind of in the back of my mind tried to make at least some sort of effort to, one, just be myself, and like two, be relatable to, especially when we're streaming and stuff, um, to people, players, fans, my family, my friends back home that don't even know like what the ace of spades is, like, but they care about me and they're rooting for me. But that's always kind of in my head at the table, especially for streaming, to like make that an enjoyable experience for not only like myself, and it keeps me calm, the other players at the table, even though like a lot of people don't agree with me on that, but it just makes the atmosphere better. And obviously the dealers and the staff and everything. And it's really good to hear that feedback from people like you, or really I got a ton of that feedback, especially after the 50K, is exactly what you're saying. Like, here, I'm a woman, so that's always gonna like be a factor, and that's okay. I'm totally okay with that. But B, like, here's somebody who's actually, wow, like, they're actually like having a conversation at the table and like getting to know kind of the story of, you can play a hand, right? And like there's no talking, and then the hand's over, and like I'm genuinely interested in people's stories, and like, I have a big story of how I got here, and I'm sure these opponents do too. And that kind of stuff really interests me. And if I'm being honest, it does help me play better against people. You know, it's just you can kind of garner like a player type
Yes,
if you actually get to know them. Like, you know, this guy owns a business, or this guy is a farmer, or this guy, you know, has 7 grandchildren and bought. You can kind of like really garner how to play against certain personality types. So it's all just like for me, I really, and I know that I also kind of, you know, as a semi-professional poker player, whatever you want to call me, like it's also it's part of the job for me. Like I take that very seriously. And I know that, you know, when I sign up to be a pro poker player and I'm playing on one of the biggest stages of the year, like I have a duty, you know, and for me that's very important. And that part of that duty is making sure that we get people that are enjoying watching the stream. They are interested in what is deuce to seven, no limit. Da, da, da. You know, like what are these games you're playing? You're actually making it look fun, you know, et
that's
cetera, et
right.
cetera. So that part, that piece of it is very important to me. And I can only like really try to get better at that. You know, in my, you know, in my past, I've felt myself get the same emotions like basically every tournament player goes through is like, you know, you lose a big equity spot and you just feel yourself kind of like melting. And like, I've been in those moments and I still am learning how to handle that at the table. Again, no matter what size the tournament is. But at the end of the day, I find that if I can keep myself on just this even scale of like play good, make good decisions, make as few mistakes as you can that are in your control. Have fun, talk to people, engage with the staff, the dealers. If I can just kind of check mark all those things, I'm going to be happy with my performance, kind of win or lose type situation. Um, so I just I try to do that, and but I really it makes me feel really great when I
Hmm.
hear really good feedback like that. And most importantly, getting some interest in getting more players into these other variants of poker, which seem big, but like in the scale of like what poker is, mixed games are a very small piece right
Yeah,
now.
I know.
And so, especially for women. So, yeah, I know I'm kind of rambling on, but when I came into the World Series 2025, it was my first year where I knew I was going to play a full schedule. My daughter is basically kind of living her own life now. She's turning 16, and so I don't feel as like, you know, previous summers I've gone back and forth and, you know, doing what mothers are supposed to do. And this year it was different because she has a full summer schedule. I went in basically saying this is going to be my first full-time summer schedule, and I definitely went in with a mentality of like, you know, I think I mentioned it to a couple people like, hey, if you can get me for fantasy, like get me for $1, like, because you know people are used to me playing but only, you know, at a 25-30% schedule. So I was really like mentally kind of locked in and loaded to from day, like this is the first time I played the very first tournament all the way to the very end, the last tournament on the schedule. So I definitely came in with a mentality like guns blazing, like here we go, kind of, and also to kind of prove to myself like, um, you know, like, are you able to do this still? You know, you've kind of done this at like a smaller scale. You've had a little bit of success here and there. And like, are you able to do this at like a full 100% full bore? Like, let's go. So I think that really helped just coming in with that mentality.
Yeah, because when you have an edge, you know, sometimes just playing one tournament is life and death in one tournament. But you know, if you just stick to your program, you're going to maximize value in the long run when when you know
Yeah.
I have a full schedule ahead.
Yeah.
And to your attitude, I do want to say this because listen, I love Phil Hellmuth. He's one of the greatest players ever. There's no denying that. But
Yeah.
when poker fans or poker amateurs are watching someone like you on TV, it gives them the
Yeah.
feeling that they can go to the table, make mistakes, and not be berated. They can go to the
Right.
table and feel
Right.
accepted no matter what their level of skill is. And that's
Yeah.
really important to the marketing of poker. So I know that it shouldn't be
Right.
on the players, but it is.
No, it absolutely should be on the players if you're a professional. I mean, like you know, Phil and I get along very well, but I'm somebody who will just flat out say to him, like, you're out of line, Phil. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and a lot of pros do that with him. It's like we'll say right then and there at the table because, you know, at any given time you're sitting with three, four amateurs, exactly what you're saying, and they're just like observing what's going on, you know. And I've seen things, and I don't want to like pick on Phil or whatever. I love Phil, but like, you know, I've seen professionals including myself in the past, things that I've had to work on too, but like be completely out of line with, you know, amateurs and like, and I'm going to tell you right now, like those kind of players do not want to play exactly what you're saying in a situation where they feel at any given second they're going to get screamed at or made fun of or berated or whatever. And it's interesting because I've been on both sides. I have been like the berater, like, you know, back in, you know, I've grown a lot. Obviously, we all grow a lot no matter what, like, you know, but I've been on that side, and I know that I've made a really conscious effort to, no matter how, it's all about competitiveness. Like you lose a hand to this amateur Phil, and I know exactly what he's feeling. He just,
Yes.
the blood rises, you feel the heat go to your cheeks, and like sometimes you just can't control it. And what I hope to see happen more is that as we grow in this industry, and as we get older and more mature, and I'm not even talking about age, I'm just talking about like experience, and is that I want to make it to where people are saying exactly what you're saying. Wow, I really enjoy playing with Phil and E-TAY and Negrano. You know, they make the table fun, and I can go in, I can play $1,000 tournament with them, a $10,000 tournament with them, and like they shouldn't feel any sort of like pressure or any sort of way to like act in any way that they don't want to. You know, they should, it's their money. They should play their hands however they want.
That's right.
And as professionals, we do have a duty to uphold a certain level of professionalism and acceptance, especially if we're trying to grow the game. And Phil knows that. Like, you know, obviously not to dog Phil, but like, you know, I have seen him do things and then like he calms down, the blood like goes from his cheeks down back to a normal level, and he'll come back and he'll apologize at his table. And it's like, you know, it gets to a point where like, yeah, Phil, we know you're sorry, but just like don't cause the scene in the first place, you know? But again, it's all about competitiveness. And you do have really great ambassadors who do a great job. I mean, Daniel Negreanu, you know, I've played a ton with him in the last 20 years. And, you know, everyone like has really good things to say about him, but I genuinely saw so many things. For probably because I played a big schedule, but for a reason we played so much together this summer. And, you know, I saw so many like little small things that he does, that he's just an incredible like ambassador. And you know, like in the 50K specifically, he had just lost like all his chips basically, and he had like a little, I don't know, like two or three blinds, and like immediately overcomes this woman like, hey, like, can I get a picture with, she doesn't know what's going on, she doesn't know he has two blinds or 200, she has no idea.
Yeah.
She's just like, Daniel, like, can I get a picture? And like I'm sitting there like, oh my god, like I couldn't imagine like worse timing, you know. But you would have never known it. Like Daniel like stood up, he was like, of course you can get a picture. And it's just things like that, like you we get to play a game for a living, and although it's not as easy as it looks like all the time, it's still a privilege. We still like are legitimately like like a game for a living, like we're playing cards, you know. And it's like I just think that like we absolutely have, it is our job to kind of all be like more like Daniel. And I could name a lot of great ambassadors, but that's kind of what I really want. Like I care about getting a bracelet. I'm competitive. I care about winning. But for me, like in 20, 30 years, I want people to say exactly what you're saying. Like, I loved watching her. She brings fun to the table, like my wife is interested in poker now. I can't tell you how many of those I got. Um, so yeah, the winning and the money and the glory and all that is great, but all of the stuff we just talked about, honestly, and I really truly mean this, that means more to me. That is what I'm pushing
Good.
for me to be known as in this industry.
Good.
So, yeah.
It's so important, and I'm so glad that Daniel now has a podcast. I think he's been off this summer, but it's fun to get to know him even more because he's just such a great guy
Yeah.
to get to know about.
Yeah. And it's fun because he's very genuine and it's very relatable.
Yeah,
You can tell it's not like, a lot of what's going on in 2025 is not real and very AI and very like you're kind of like grasping at like what's real, what's authentic, what's genuine, what's relatable. And I definitely can tell that Daniel is like so much of what he does and what how he acts and his podcast, his video blogging, his the way he interacts with fans is really genuine. And I just hope that like we can move the needle over, to us professionals being more like that. While at the same time competing at the highest level. I think that you can do both. I really do. So,
absolutely. He is really a symbol for what a great poker player can be and what they can do for the game. So I'm
yeah.
I'm always grateful to hear from him. So listen,
Yeah.
I didn't clarify something for people that might not know who E-TAY is or play much poker. I did want to make sure we make clear that in the 50K PPC, you were the last standing woman ever that's making
Yes.
history and finishing third. That's
Yeah.
now going to become a 4 minute mile kind of thing for women to where they believe they can go even deeper, or perhaps next
Yes.
year you're going to win it, which is going to be just a
Right.
huge symbol and great for poker.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you one hand from that for people that are watching this that are poker fans that could get some great insight from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in the deuce to seven, when you broke the 10,
Yes.
take me
Yeah.
through that hand because it's probably one of the most
Okay.
important moments in your tournament life.
Yeah, it was. First and foremost, I'll say I have never played before the 50K. I've never played a live hand of deuce to seven tournament in a tournament setting ever.
Oh, wow.
So, uh, I played the 50K once in, I think in 2016 or 17, and they did not have deuce to seven. It was horse,
Hmm.
and then it was no limit and PLO, which in 2017, I was pretty comfortable playing that. Now they've added, actually, no, they had triple draw too. So now they've added one more variant, which is deuce to seven, no limit. um, I've played it maybe two times live in a mix of a cash game and then zero other experience. So, given that, here's what I'll say. I 50K is a big buy-in. I was planning, I had it like on my schedule tentatively to play. It was going to be basically based on like how I was doing it. It was kind of like midway through the series. It could have gone either way. If I was absolutely buried, I might have been like jumping this 50K and try to get unburied, like whatever. Or if things weren't going well at all, like where I really felt like I wasn't winning any hands or, just that mentality of like nothing's really going right at this moment, I probably would have stepped aside. And then also if I was doing really, really well, there it was going to be a no-brainer. Like I really believe in like momentum. So at the time, I wasn't doing amazing, but I wasn't doing terrible. I was winning some very important hands and losing some very important hands. So it was kind of even. And I I remember like the day going into it, and I was just thinking like this is such a tough tournament. Like everyone, most everyone that plays in it is very good at each game. Like what am I doing? And I was like, I have no experience in deuce to seven. Like I'm comfortable with the other games. I can navigate ball. I'm just kind of going through this internal battle. Um, and anyway, obviously, ultimately, I decided to play. I got like, some really good encouragement from, people that are very important in my life that speak positivity into me. And I kind of just came to the conclusion, like let's just go for it. I haven't played this tournament in so long. Um, let's just throw our hat in the ring and see what happens. Uh, so I text a good friend of mine, Darren Elias,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was like, yeah, Darren
He's
and
a
I
good
are
coach for
very
deuce
good
to seven.
friends. Yeah. He's been a really good friend of mine for a long time. We've been through a lot together, raising kids. He lives like, like 45 minutes away. Um, outside of poker, we have a great relationship. His wife, kids, my daughter, so somebody I'm very comfortable with. And I just said, hey, I don't want you to try to like, it's impossible to try to instruct me how to play this game. But will you just give me like a quick, rundown of the basics? Because I told him I'm basically just going to like fold every hand like a little wimpy, because it's
Yeah,
fine. There's 9 games in the
right.
mix. I know which games I can really like garner a little bit less risk-free chips in. And so that was kind of my strategy. So I was like, just give me like kind of like deuce to seven for dummies, just a basic. And so he gave me like a little like 4 to 5 minute rundown. And I'm going to tell you right now, like it was extremely helpful. Obviously I know triple draw, I know ranges, I know like whatever, I have card sense, blah, blah, blah. But without that little, like, I think he sent me like a voice note. Um, Without that, I think that I would have felt pretty lost because he pointed out like a couple key factors that I probably would have never really thought about and ultimately like would have just folded everything, which is wrong obviously in a mix like that. So yeah, okay, so fast forward to, you have to understand that hand happened at the end of day 4, okay? I have been playing with everybody at that table for many years. One thing that I think that is like a strong suit for me is like I really kind of understand and have awareness on how certain players perceive me or perceive me how to play, whether it's tight, aggressive, this, that. Um, so I knew 100% that all of the players at the time at the table knew that I was playing all the big bet games pretty snug.
Hmm.
So no limit hold'em, deuce to seven, no limit. And PLO ultimately I'm very comfortable with, but like I was like, I'm not gonna get into a 60-40 flip for all my chips in a nine
Yeah.
game mix. I just that was my strategy. Um so given that they had basically seen me play no hands of deuce to no limit deuce. And now we get to this hand where we have maybe 2 or 3 hours left in the night. Um, and I had been battling, like I came into day 4 with pretty good chips, lost a ton of them right away. So I was like battling with a short stack for a long time. Then once we got like later in the night, I had built it back up and then built it back down. And so here I am with like 10 to 12 big blinds, I think at the time. And Andrew Ye, who I played with multiple tournaments, a million cash games together, um, opened to like, you have to understand the structure of the deuce, which also I learned this year is different. So you have small blind, big blind, and then a blind and a half in the middle.
Hmm.
that the big blind
Hmm.
pays. And then you have to come in for an open. So it's an interesting structure there. I think in the small blind. So there's obviously there's more money in the middle, the big blind, and then Andrew opened to like, I think two and a half blinds. And he opened from under the gun. And so he is relatively like, I would think on the tighter side. His range is tighter under the gun.
Of
And
course.
he himself in that game, because we play limit mix a lot, is going to err on the tighter side as well.
Hmm.
So those are two very important factors. Under the gun, and he's a player more like me in the big bet games. And that's just an opinion. Like that's just an opinion based on how I played many hand histories with him. But anyway, so I look down, and this is, I think, one of the best hands that I was dealt the whole tournament in deuce, which I was like, thank God. I kept saying like, don't deal me any good hands. Like, please deal me out of this game. And I basically was. So I looked down and I'm like, oh shit, like here we go. Like this is a really, and I knew this was a really good hand. I at least knew that much. And so I was like, here we go. Like, but the dynamic of like starting the day good in chips, kind of getting beat up right away, and then grinding for many hours, and then getting to this spot where I grinded it back up and then kind of just lost a few hands and then was grinding a short stack again. That I People don't understand how important those dynamics are. Like when I go all in, okay, for my 10 blinds now, Andrew is a very, very intelligent guy, and he's very versed in tournaments. He understands exactly how I play. So I'm going to be honest with you. When I went all in, I basically expected him to fold everything. I wasn't necessarily shoving for value. I was shoving for the value of his two and a half blinds, the blind and a half in the middle,
Hmm.
the dead blind and the big blind, and then my small blind, which would have increased my stack by 40%, 30-40%, which I was going to be thrilled with.
Right.
So that's dead honest. Like nobody's even really asked me that yet. So like when I went all in, I was pretty much 90% expecting him to fold. So he took about, in my brain, it was about 15 seconds. It might have been longer, I'm not sure. But in my brain, it was pretty fast. Given all of those dynamics, I was like, wow. I
Yes.
think you can even, if you look at my face, because I like, somebody had sent me a link where they put it on Reddit, and he calls, and then you can see, like, you can literally see in my face, I'm like, wow, like I didn't expect that, if that makes sense.
Oh
So
yeah.
when he called, and how fast and how confident, instantly, it took me less than 10
Hmm.
seconds to know that my hand probably wasn't good. And it's not, there's no like rhyme or reason except for experience in tournaments, like understanding exactly like the dynamic of the between Andrew and myself, the dynamic of what was going on at the table. Um, it was just pure like I literally am gonna stay pat here because it's the right thing to do with this hand and 10 blinds, or I'm gonna give myself a chance in this tournament because everything in my gut is telling me it's not good. And it's like somebody folding like kings or queen. It's not quite at that scale, but like if you're folding like kings or queens or even jacks or tens with like 10 big blinds, like nobody's doing that, right?
Right.
But like, but like you just see my mind like working, and I'm like, okay, either do what like the book says and pack your shit up and get out of this tournament, or go with your gut, which you've always done your entire life and career, and try to give yourself a chance in this tournament. And that's literally the conclusion I came to. And that is why I broke a hand that probably I shouldn't have broken,
No, it worked out
like
great.
math wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the whole explanation of the hand. It wasn't any sort of like incredible like read or anything or just like whatever. It just honestly just pure instincts and then like pulling the trigger to go with the instinct, even though if I was wrong, which I was pretty sure I wasn't, it would have just been a tragedy. And that's kind of tournaments, right? Like you have to be okay with like making these decisions and being wrong at a pretty high rate. And that is very hard to do, like especially for competitors. Like you're going to be wrong in your decisions 40% of the time. And I think what happens a lot, well, I know what happens a lot because I've done it a million times myself, but like we kind of talk ourselves into like, I don't want to look like a fool on stream,
Right.
right? Which for me, I really try to like block that out of my mind because I've already done a million things on stream that make me look like a fool. So it's like, what's one more, you know?
Yeah.
But like, B, like going with your gut, even though you could be wrong. And that's the really, I think that's one of the hardest pieces of tournament poker is people have really good instincts, right? And they kind of know like, oh man, I really want to check raise all in here, but like if they just have the nuts, like I look like a fool, even if you're not on stream, even just to the other players at the table, like I'm gonna look like an idiot, you know? And then like they just don't pull the trigger. And for me, I'm really happy that I've kind of gotten to this place, which took me 20 years to get to, of like, yeah, I'm going to pull the trigger. And you know what? I'm just going to have to be okay if I'm wrong.
Right.
And when I mucked that 10 and put that 10 into the muck, I was legitimately okay. Like if he showed me a 10-8, I was just going to like have to be okay with it because I had made the decision. I had gone with my gut, with my instinct. I pulled the trigger and then like, here we go, you know? And
Well,
I could have been wrong, but
it could have been always that's always a possibility. But what I loved about it, just on based on your, because I had a feeling that I was watching exactly what you just described
yeah.
because he had raised an early position and it did seem like it was one of the games that you were like, I know a little, but maybe not enough. And I felt
Yeah,
like everyone at the
absolutely.
table could sense that. So you knew
Yes,
once someone called your all in, you
exactly.
have to break the 10
Exactly.
because he's probably
Exactly.
got me beat.
Yeah. And like you're saying, like I genuinely didn't, poker is like a chess game. Like you make a move and you really have to think about the next moves that are happening very
Yes.
quickly, and it's like I'm being honest, like I did not even really think he was going to call. So it's like, because if he has like, here's the thing about deuce, like in that spot. Now we're not talking about like levels 1 through 15, right? Deuce, no limit deuce. We're talking about end of day 4, brink of like the final table of whatever, 5 or 6 or whatever. Like it's just a different dynamic. So like if he's opening like a 9 draw and I go all in, I gotta ask him this, but in my mind, he's calling mostly never.
Right.
So like when he calls that quickly and that confidently, I know his hand is made. Now, is his hand made with a 10-8 sometimes? That's what we have to like think about. And that was like the deciding like factor. And I just thought to myself, I think he would have taken more time with like a 10
Right.
because it's like I think he has to go through like, damn, like I have a 10-8, like let's say he has a 10-8, 6-5-3 or whatever. He's like, I would think he would have to take at least like 60 to 90 seconds to think like, okay, math wise, 2 blinds, 9 more blinds, breaking a 10 here, drawing to an 8-6. Like all of those numbers have to go through his head. So when he calls in like 15, 20 seconds, it's like there's not even anything for him to think about, right? Which tells me his hand wasn't exactly what it was. And I'm no like, you're never going to see me be on a podcast being like, I knew exactly what he had. Blah. Like, I'm not some like sick hand reader, but it's just given the dynamic of everything, his hand was exactly what it was. And my hand was not good enough to beat that. So,
My favorite moment in poker is when an opponent turns over their hand and the other person says, "That's exactly what I thought you had." Like,
yeah, yeah, it's like,
everyone's a genius when the hand's tabled.
I was just gonna say it is very interesting. And it comes with experience and just, tons and tons of volume that like, yeah, you can be right a lot in what you think that they have or what you think they should have. But you're right. It's really interesting when people are like, oh yeah, yeah, I put you on exactly two black tens. Like, yeah, like yeah, sometimes like they couldn't possibly have nines, or
Yeah.
like something very similar. Like,
Now Daniel,
but
now Daniel will do it, and he'll call out something like a king nine and be right, which is spooky.
yeah,
Obviously, it's
well,
years of
he's just
experience, but
yeah, exactly. And he's like on another level with that. In all of my years of playing poker, I have never seen anyone as good at that as Daniel is.
yeah,
So he definitely has trillions of hands of volume, but also he has something that just a lot of people don't. He has an extra factor in there, which obviously is something he's worked very hard at and is very skilled in. So, but yeah, that hand obviously saved my tournament life. And it's interesting because I think what a lot of people got to see, where you don't get to see if it's not streaming and whatever, is that there's a lot of, really big and tough decisions that you make along the way. And a lot of times you make the right one and I pair there and I'm out of the tournament. Or I make the wrong decision and I stay pat there and he has a nine and I'm out of the tournament. And so it's really cool to see like the decisions or the flips or the cards when you're at the mercy of the deck that you do end up making and hitting to keep yourself alive in the tournament. And I'm only saying that because the last hand that I ended up busting on was pretty much the same exact hand, but in reverse. So Bryn had like a one card draw to like a number like number one, and he made number one. So he made number one when we're three-handed with a one card draw to come, which is like 20. You have like 20-30%, 20%. I think he might have had a little more because he could have made a nine. But anyway, so it's like, and a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, your bust out hand." Like that's, and I will say, like, you're never gonna hear me complaining about like a tournament result, but I will say, like, Bryn was very short and he had a series of very good things that happened to keep him in the tournament.
yeah,
Just kept doubling up through me specifically because we were fighting kind of for second place. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's so sick. Like, I can't believe you lost that hand against Bryn." And I'm like, yeah, I would have really loved to win that hand. I mean, that was like a $300,000 like pull there, but like in all reality, like so was my pull, 24 hours earlier when, we were playing for eighth place or seventh place or whatever it was, and the payout was 140,000. So it's like it really keeps you like, yeah, you really have to think about the perspective of the entire tournament and like what decisions you made to keep yourself in, what river cards you got lucky on to keep yourself in, what hands you folded to keep yourself in, so all of that is, and I'm speaking to people that are playing tournaments, is like all of that is very important. I think people get really attached to the result of the last hand because you're going to. It's the hand that busts you.
yeah.
It's the hand that like says you cannot play anymore. Um, but what I would really like to see is more people just understand like it's so many decisions and lucky rivers and unlucky rivers that, along the way that lead me to like where I got in that 50K PPC. And the reason that like I am able to just stay humble and stay in my lane and understand that all 107 people that bought into the 50K tournament are all trying to win. We're all trying to make a wheel and no limit dues, you know. We're all trying to have the best hand hold up. And so if you look at it from that perspective, it's like I get all the great job, E-TAY, and great run and way to represent and all this stuff. And I really obviously appreciate all of that. But for me, it's like I keep into perspective, like a lot of really good things happened. And, you know, there was moments that I capitalized on those good things happening to kind of get me to the place of being three-handed with two people that I have a ton of respect for. But given that, I never felt like I didn't have the ability to win in that spot.
Yeah.
So, as far as tournament flow goes, Grinder was probably going to win, like with momentum and everything. But as far as skill level and experience and whatnot, I genuinely just sat there and thought, you know, a couple good things go my way, and there's no doubt in my mind that I have the ability and the capability to win this tournament, which is a really good feeling because it's taken me a long time to get to that point in my career.
Well, I'm so glad that you're giving this insight into tournament poker. It's a mental roller coaster, the ups and the
Yeah.
downs. And that's why I was less interested in your bust hand, because I was more interested in the 10, because it's that moment when the
Yeah.
gear can shift. I mean, in the
Yes.
main event, Grinder was down to 4 big blinds.
100%.
He went
Yeah.
on to win, I don't know, like something like 10 or 11 all ins. And I think Doug Polk had done the math. He had a 0.017 chance of winning all those all ins.
Oh, believe it. I believe it.
But just the
He
way,
legit had momentum on his side and he capitalized on it. And he ran, and the thing is like you know, Grinder got extremely lucky in both tournaments, but there's something to be said about I always get a crack out of like the haters because they're like, you know, I've gotten everything, and I don't mean to speak negatively. I'm just like telling like a story of like I've gotten a lot of like, oh, how is she playing a 50K, and like, you know, what skill, you know, just a lot of like, you know, crap that I've had to deal with. And it's like it's just interesting to see like I'm not doing anything special. Like Grinder, what is special is that you can make decisions and you can have momentum and you can capitalize it. But the most important thing about tournaments is like, how do you navigate with what you have in the moment? Like people try to do what Grinder did with no momentum. So think about that. Like you can't force anything. And like Grinder just had this like sure he had a 0.017% chance, and like he got a lot of like, oh my god, he runs so good and he's so lucky, and like most of it is, I'm sorry, but like jealousy. And
that's
like
exactly right.
we all want to run that good. I'm dying to run like Grinder in the main event. I would like die for that. So it's like, why does it become a negative thing? Like, oh my god, he ran so good for 10 days, and like I saw him run good in the 50K too. And it's like, I'm sorry, hand in the air. I would much rather run good and have that percentage on my side,
Yeah.
like, and receive all the hate and like jealousy, than try to play perfect. And like, so anyway, like my point is like, yes, he ran very, very well, but Grinder is somebody who is just so versed in tournaments. And people discredit him a lot where he's doing his crazy stuff and like he's overbetting the pot 5x or whatever, but like he knows what he's doing. And when you give him that kind of momentum and that kind of run good for that amount of days, he is unstoppable. And I mean, I want that someday in the main event. I would die for that, you know?
And I'll tell you, but he makes some decisions that prove to you, and this is what you were getting at earlier, where he's not treating like his tournament life like it's life or death. He's just going with what he feels is the right move.
He's a complete feel and instinct player, and I love it
I'm
because, you know, we get criticized, you know, oh, like my friends that are very, very good at no limit hold'em and things that you can really, really study for and memorize the charts and all this GTO stuff and whatever, like they give me a hard time because here's the thing. I've never studied once. I've never read a book. I've never looked at a video ever. Like I just came back from playing like the heads up tournament. And my buddies are like, you need to study, you need to like look, and I'm like, I literally said this exact quote. I'm like, why would I start studying now? Because like the all of my tournament strategy is what I've been doing the last 10 years is like outside of the box. People that study, they don't know what to do with me because it's like, what is she doing
Right.
folding a 10-7 here? Or what is she doing like this and that? And like it's like why would I not just go to this tournament where I don't have very, very little heads up experience, but why wouldn't I just do what I'm comfortable with
Hmm.
and like do what I know how to do, which is not play this game theory optimal style, not play like the chart style, and just play off of like instinct and flow and whatever. And that's exactly like what Grinder does. And it's so interesting. You see Grinder win this year, and you see a guy like Jonathan Tamayo win last year with the computers up
Oh my
and
God. Yeah.
17 people in his ear with the charts and knowing exactly where the queen nine, off and middle lies. It's like you just saw like polarizing like champions, and I couldn't name anything that's better for the game than that.
Yeah. It just shows there's a place for everything, for everyone.
Exactly, exactly. And you got to see it. You got to see him just make like the most wild decisions and plays and just things that like and Jonathan Tamayo is a great friend of mine and I love him and he's like so intelligent, but you're never going to see a Jonathan Tamayo make even 2% of some of the plays that Grinder's making out there in the main event. I mean, it just is what it is. And you're right. There's when people are watching that, they're thinking, oh, well, I don't have to be a computer to play this, or I don't have to beat a computer to play this. That's the important piece for me right now. It's like, I think the new wave of people that are coming in is like, well, I got to beat a bunch of computers. And it's like, well, one, you're able to because it's poker and anything goes. And two, you don't really. There's just so many people playing so many different styles right now. And I love to see it. I loved that Grinder one. I love it. I love his whole journey from the 50K all the way up. It's like just so great to see. And maybe I'm biased because like it's more my style too on how I play and how I am at the table. And but yeah, that Grinder winning that and the PPC was, if you want to talk about history, we're never gonna see that again, ever.
I
You're
highly
never gonna
doubt
see
it.
it again. You're
Yeah.
never gonna see it. It's just not gonna happen. It's impossible. I mean, you can never say impossible in poker, but I would bet everything we're never going to see that happen again. I mean, Utah, you just have to have every single thing go right for
Everything.
15 days. It's just impossible. So I mean, that put poker up there, back up there on the map. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. And it was great to have someone from the old school that did it.
Old school. Yeah. He says to me, "Yeah, I just came here. I didn't even know if I was gonna play that many tournaments." It's just like he's so like, just like whatever, whatever, whatever. And then like, but once he steps foot in the arena, he is there to play. He is there to play tournament poker, and I'm there for the show. I love it. I love seeing it.
Yeah. You got a front row seat to the 50K PPC and had a deep
I
run in the
gotta,
main event. So you were there.
yeah, I was just how kind of like momentum and flow goes when we got down to like 200 players and like they were kind of like really focusing on like Grinder was still in, obviously Leo was still in, I was still in, and there was a lot of like attention around that. And there was a point in my head where I was like, this cosmically could happen just because so much attention was on Grinder and I making the 50K final
Yeah.
table. And it honestly gave me like a lot of like momentum too, just within itself. I was like, this cosmically could happen. And like, I was kind of trending in the main event, like where I've never made a deep run in the main event ever. And so it was to a point where I was like, wow, this could, if a few things go right here, this could really be something. And I'll tell you this, my main event, it went pretty smoothly. And ultimately when I ended up busting the main event, it was my first time all in the whole tournament, which for me is like an accomplishment in itself because I'm a very big believer in like my tournament life and just keeping myself in. And like, when you're all in at risk on day one, two, three, four, five of the main event and you have no control over turns and rivers, I like hate that feeling. So yeah, I was down to and I was flipping. So it's just like a flip of a coin. And, we land on the right side of that flip and like who knows where the run takes us. But it was kind of cool. It was cool to have that coming off of the 50K and just a ton of confidence. And like you said, it's like the main event is a freeze out. And I think in prior years, my mentality was kind of like, oh crap, like I don't want to be all in on level three and like with queens and like, whatever. And this year it was different for me. I was just like, you know what? Just go for it. Just gun it. I mean, I was all in along the way, but never called. So I think I just had more of a confidence to be like with the deuce hand, like pull the trigger, like you're going to be wrong sometimes, but this is kind of what you have to the mentality that you have to get to be successful in these really long structured tournaments. I mean, every tournament after the main event, I played like a 20-minute turbo event, like 20-minute levels. It's like, you know, I go from like this 10-day structure, slow structure to 20-minute turbo tournament. And of course, your entire strategy changes. But that's like the beauty of all these different tournaments is like I can play any style on any given day in any sort of structure. So
Yeah, so like back in the day, I won the $50 rebuy on Poker Stars. I won a $100
nice.
freeze out on Poker Stars. A couple of
Yes.
deep runs, final tables on the $100 rebuy on Poker Stars, and I always found that when I got to the end of the tournament and had performed well, whether it's first or final tables, like I don't really know how I got there. In a way, it was like
Yeah.
I would never
Yeah.
be a good poker coach because it was like, but
Yeah.
I just knew that it was the days where I didn't treat my tournament life like it was my entire life.
Yeah, yeah. I could not agree with you more. Like,
It's an out of body
it's a
experience in some ways for me when I go deep in a tournament.
yeah, yeah. And you're right. You have to like if you just look at like the people that have had years and years of success in poker tournaments, right? Like you kind of see the same trend. Like these players have been called bad poker players probably thousands of times in their career. Legitimately. Like, oh, he played that hand horrible or he played that hand. Like I used to take that personally kind of. I now take that as a compliment because yeah, of course people are gonna, of course along the way of like a million hands, you're gonna play what, 300,000 of those hands terribly, and that's okay, right? You're gonna put your cards on the table. I'm gonna have tens and you're gonna have jacks, and people are gonna be like, how did she put it all, with jacks, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but at the end of the day, the people that have success are the ones that are just like gunning it, like go for it. Like, yeah, I have tens and he might have jacks, but I'm still gonna put my 25 blinds in or whatever. Like, whereas people that play like more on the passive side, and it's like, I mean, you see this. I'm not gonna name specific names, but like you see the different player types. And the ones that are putting pressure and are aggressive and are not scared to like you said, put it all out on the table. If I'm walking out of the tournament room, I'm walking out of the tournament room. Those are the ones that I find have a resume of years long of success.
This guy right here. So my friend dealt Phil Ivey, I should say. Um,
Yes.
my friend dealt the $5,000 rebuy PLO back in the mid aughts when he won, and
Okay.
she had him autograph this. He's always been a guy to me that chips up and is ready to win, is not afraid to bust out early in a tournament if it means getting chipped up
No.
and being in a good position. Because there's
Yeah.
nothing better when that bubble's coming and you have the chips to start buying a lot of extra real estate.
Exactly. I also got to play with Phil way more than I ever have in 10 years in one summer. This summer, I just found myself at a lot of tables with him. And if you want to talk about a guy that gives no F's, like he's like it's like even like his demeanor at the table, it's like you beat him a hand, he's like, yeah, yeah, here you go, here's the chips, and then like he just goes on in the next hand, and like just zero like up or down on anything. Like you're exactly right. He just doesn't. He's like he knows how to play every spot, every hand exactly how he's supposed to. If he wins, he's like just putting the chips in his pile. If he loses, he just like kind of grabs his bag and leaves.
It's
He's just
another,
like
while
the
he might,
chillest.
yeah, exactly. And while he might not be great for TV compared to, what they get out of Cabrel or Kasuf, with the people that get over
Yeah,
that think that's great for TV,
yeah,
um, it's another thing what we were talking about earlier with marketing. If you beat Phil in a hand, Phil Ivey, you're not going to hear a
yeah.
word from him. He's not going to give you the pleasure. So
No, no, yeah, he's a complete and utter professional. But yeah, he was really enjoyable to watch too. It's interesting when you see, when you're growing up in your career and you see these like big shots, superstars, superstars. You can call them superstars. In our industry, they are superstars. And I'll never forget back before I had my daughter, I was playing some tournaments I had no business playing in, like no experience whatsoever. But I remember playing in like a 10K mix game or something. I don't even think I knew the rules, but Ivy was at the table. And because I was new to poker, it was kind of like a like just like in awe, moment. And I remember him just like looking at me with his eyes, and I was just like, I can't. Like I was like terrified. Like I remember the feeling, and that was, 15 years ago, 16 years ago. And then fast forward to 2025, and I'm like, he's sitting there with me at like probably 10 tournaments this summer. And I have so much respect for him. And like, I know he could probably just beat me every tournament, but like, I didn't have that feeling of like, oh, I'm so terrified. I'm not going to play any hands against him. He's so scary. And like, and in all reality, he's not that scary. He's like the nicest guy, like the chillest guy. Like you can beat him for $100,000. You wouldn't even notice,
yep,
Um, but yeah, it's interesting how your mentality and your confidence morph as you get more and more experience under your belt. I
yeah,
guess that's really what the message that I like to get out there is that people think that they should be good at tournaments right away, right? Because they're good in cash games or they've had success, and it's just like when people ask me, how do you get into mix? I always have the same answer. A, it's very hard to get in now, right? I got in at a time where they were running like $25 tournaments on Full Tilt Poker, and you could learn for a couple $100 a week. You could learn how to play mixed games basically. Now it's so much harder to learn. It's way more expensive because if you want to play, you have to play at a level that's very expensive, but you need a ton of volume. You have to get volume in. It's like you can't you can't be good at tournaments. You can't be a Phil Ivey. Phil Ivey probably, if I had to guess, probably has like who knows, like 50 million hand histories under his
yeah,
belt. I
no
don't I
kidding.
don't even know how to quantify it, but like, that's how you like people if you're getting into poker, no matter what scale it's at, if it's a $25 tournament, if it's a 250, if it's 25,000, I don't know, whatever scale you're getting into, you have to have it's not you can have high standards for yourself, but you have to have a realization that it's basically like any other competitive arena that you're going to step in. The more experience, the more reps, The more times you see the hand that I played with, the deuce to seven, what a hand, the more of those situations you see live or you experience, that's how you get better at tournament poker. So many people try to come in, fly off the seat of their pants and try to like have success right away. And some people do, but for me, it's like you have to put the work in, you have to get the reps in, you have to get my suggestion to people is like get a million hand histories under your belt. Literally. Like it's just so hard. And anyone that's been in it for, 5, 10, 15, 20 years knows how hard it is. And to this day, to this summer of 2025, when I actually got to have success, I still know next year when I go 2026 World Series of Poker, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. It's not easy. It doesn't come easy. Um, but it's a battle. And if you want to be in tournament poker, you gotta be ready to battle all the time. And you're gonna lose a lot. You're gonna lose a lot more than you win.
What has your journey into
So
poker been like? If you don't mind me asking a little bit of the backstory.
yeah, I got introduced to poker by a guy named Brandon Cantu.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, we both lived, I grew up in Oregon, so we both grew up in the Northwest, and I had met him through like a mutual friend. And this was back when the moneymaker boom was happening 2003, so it was a
Mm-hmm.
couple years after that, and people were starting to play like little sit and goes at home, and we weren't even using poker chips, we were using like dried beans or something, and like it was just like in the very beginning of time. And Brandon was like, come play this like poker game. And I thought to myself, poker, like I'm always been in like sports and competitions my whole life. So I was immediately like interested, but I was like, I don't even know. Like I remember thinking like, I know how to play Yahtzee. Like I know what like a full house is or like a straight or, a pair, but like I didn't know truly like nothing with poker. And it just kind of morphed into this like, oh, I would go to these little like home games for fun. And then Brandon and I started kind of playing like $3, $6 limit at like our local casino. And then I really enjoyed poker from like that, like the beginning of time. I really like it took me forever to learn, but I really enjoyed just the game of poker. It was fun to me, and over the years, I started playing on full tilt, like for a few $100s or whatever,
Yeah.
learning like mixed games and stuff. But yeah, over the years, I have thoroughly enjoyed like take the financial aspect out of it. And if we're just playing cards, I genuinely enjoy it. And I got to a point where I realized this is one of very few things that you can do. Um, that, for example, I was pretty athletic growing up, but I'm 5'2" and I'm a small person. So like I played every sport and I was pretty good at them that you needed to be tall for. Like I got capped by the end of high school because I'm 5'2" and I played volleyball, basketball, softball, Um I really wish my parents would have put me in golf, but like, these sports that you had to be like I had the skill, I had the mentality, but I didn't have the size.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always like bothered me. It's like, you like Scotty Scheffler, like I mean, he obviously works hard, but he kind of like got like the golf life lottery. Like he was the human that was picked to just be this like
Right.
god in golf. You know what I mean? And so when I got into poker, it's like I got to a point where I realized that this is one of very few things that you can do. There's literally no cap, there's no ceiling. even Phil Ivey is not capped yet. He can still get better.
That's right.
He can still improve in ways. You know, the game is always changing, ever evolving. Like, so you can take the best player in the world and they still have room to get to grow and to get better. That for me, competitively, from a competitive side, was incredible to me. Um, the second biggest thing is like you don't have to be any sort of anything like male, female, white, black, Asian, um, old, young, blind, walking, can't walk. Like name somebody. I've seen it all. I've seen somebody play with their toes with the cards because their hands were incapable of.
Yeah.
I have legitimately seen it all. And to me, that is an extraordinarily phenomenal aspect of
That's
poker.
right.
Any single person can play a hand of poker. It's incredible. I mean, truly. And and I think like those two factors really drew me in and I kind of have this like I don't know if it's like an addictive personality. It's more of like a competitively addictive personality. So from 2006, 7 to 2009, I wanted to get good really fast. And I kind of had this expectation that I was going to get good fast. And it was the exact opposite. I thought I was good and I was terrible. And then I had my daughter. So I basically played zero hands of poker from 2009 to 2015. And in 2015, when she went to kindergarten and I had more free time, I started kind of slowly picking it back up. But I kind of jumped right back into that. Like, there is so much potential in this game. And also for me, because, you know, I'm one of very few women that plays mixed games. And which I would like to see change and help make a change in that, by the way. But for me, I just saw like a ton of opportunity. And if I see that and the lights start to kind of flicker, I'm like, I gotta do. I'm like, I come from a competitive like mindset. Like, I gotta get really good at this because I have the capability to. There's no height restriction or age restriction or female restriction that's holding me back. So here you go.
Mhm.
Here's the palette. Go for it. Like do whatever you can. And I think I think in the last you know, it's great to have the experience that I did from basically 2015 to when COVID hit. Um I think that was my real like learning stage and like going through a lot of growing pains and whatnot. And then, you know, post COVID, just getting out there and really making an effort to throw my hat in the ring and just get it just more just playing more for me it's like not really about studying or doing any of that stuff it's just being at the table that's why I don't play a lot of online stuff like for me it's like looking you in the face like getting to know you getting to know your story and then like competing against you um and I think that I've kind of always had the same like competitive mentality. So it's kind of like held me above water in this career. But you know, when you have summers like I did this summer, it really kind of catapults you into like, okay, the capability and the ability is there. Now what do I do with that going forward? And for me it's like I'm a big momentum person, so you're going to see me play like a lot of tournaments coming off of like the World Series,
Mhm.
which I don't normally do. Um, and then once that momentum kind of dies down, because it will, because this is tournament poker, and you do not get to win every hand of tournament poker, and you do not get to have success in every World Series that you go to. But you know, I'll kind of back off a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of been my whole journey is like I like to strike when the iron's hot. I like to back off when it's not going well. And mm, I think a big thing for me, and I don't know if this is the majority of people that play tournament poker for a living, but I feel like I've in my older age now, I feel like I try to stay extremely balanced in this career. So, and this is kind of just like a piece of advice from like I'm in my 40s now. I'm a mom. I have a very extraordinarily wonderful circle of people in my life, as far as like friendships, family, support goes. And I try to keep myself extremely balanced with all of that. So when I go home from the 50K and I lose a really big high equity spot like that, and I'm obviously extremely happy for the run and very grateful, but like from the competitive side, I'm very bummed and like, you're like right there and there is a disappointment factor in like getting
Yeah.
there and like not winning the bracelet. And that's not something that I talk about too often because I don't ever want anyone to perceive me as somebody who has an entitlement to just because I get there, I get to win or complain about getting a third place for like, in one of the biggest tournaments. But I will admit that there is that factor of like, wow, like I get to these spots, I get five-handed, I get four-handed, I get three-handed, I get heads up, and it's like there is a disappointment level of not winning. But when I walk out of that tournament room and, my friends that flew in from different places and, we go to Old Red and like it is done there. Like like the poker is done, the tournament is done. And here I go into like kind of my real world and my real life. And like I think a lot of like my success is attributed to poker is very important to me. It's like how I make my living, but it's not that's what it is. It doesn't define like who I am. It doesn't define my life. I appreciated all like the attention and the support that I got. And again, like I said, that kind of stuff means more to me. But at the end of the day, throughout the year, I try to keep my life pretty well rounded. And I think that plays a huge part in not only my journey for 20 years in this career, but when I have success, I know that, a lot of it is because like we've said a million times on this podcast, is like it's not all in on one hand,
Right.
like it's not all about one tournament for me. Like win or lose, I'm gonna go back home to like my friends that like don't even know what the ace of spades is or doesn't know what an all in means, but like here they all 40 of them are outside watching on the big screen, a watch party for me. And that's how I will continue to have success in this career, and that's how I hope that I will conduct myself for the next I for me it's like I can see myself playing poker till I physically can't anymore. Obviously at different scales as you grow older and things change in your life, but I really hope that I can keep myself balanced with poker being a very big part of my life and a very big aspect, but not all my eggs in that one basket. So that would be my, if you can take anything away, it's like, yeah, your career is important, but like also just staying balanced and your relationships with people and the people who love and support you, win or lose. All of that stuff is very, very important to my success. So,
And you're also a businesswoman. Does that help you as a
yeah.
poker player or vice versa?
Well, so for me with the charcuterie, I kind of thought to myself, I have a lot of downtime. We have a lot of downtime in this industry, especially somebody like me who's not going to play poker 7 days a week. It's just never going to happen. I mean, only at the World Series of Poker will you see me play, a constant, nonstop schedule. But outside the World Series of Poker and maybe another month of the year in December when we all go play, the Win or Bahamas or whatever, I have a lot of downtime. And especially my daughter's old and she actually, it sounds insane, but has a busier schedule than I do. So it's like, what do you do with this time? And one, it's a complete privilege to like have time like that. I try to keep myself very aware that there's millions of people in the world who, you know, work, 40, 50 hours a week, don't get to have a lot of downtime. So like, what am I doing here, wasting this time and the ability to do things and give back? And so for me, with the charcuterie, um, one, I really love that stuff and I love getting creative. It's kind of like the same thing. Here's a palette, do what you will with it, use your creativity and whatever. And two, it was more when I started the business, it was more, my focus wasn't on making money from it necessarily. It was like being involved in my little community back home and like community events and being able to serve people
Yeah.
and really being able to show, like, bring my daughter to these events, and she's helped me like put out like charcuterie spreads. And so the business aspect of it is like, oh, you're a business owner. It's like, yeah, yeah, I have a charcuterie business, but you know for me it's more about utilizing that to be a part of like a community, to give back. And also, that's why I'm very, very big on charitable work and whatever I can do to be involved in that. And it's really, a lot of people are like, well, that's really cool. And my response is, yes, it's cool, but it's also like a self-serving thing. Because for me, it's like in poker, you're just the whole point of it, and what you're driven to do is like take from everybody for yourself, right? Like that's the whole purpose, the strategy. You're trying to be the last player remaining to win the most amount of money for yourself. So poker players are not doing, like, our industry is not helping anyone else in any sort of way. I'm sorry to say it.
That's a very
Like,
selfish endeavor.
it is. We're not nurses. We're not, out here doing careers that are very helpful for society and like and so I have to do something to counterbalance that or I will go crazy. Like I will feel like a selfish piece of crap. Like, because it is selfish. So when I do stuff like, I'm involved in a ton of charities. I love being out there with my hands. My dad and I went to Mexico last year to build houses, like, and I love doing that because it's like it makes me feel better. Like what I'm actually doing something that does have an impact on others in a positive way, which is the antithesis of what poker is,
That's right.
right? And I will say this, the majority of people that I know in poker and the circles that I run in, everyone it has the same mentality that I'm speaking to you right now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it to you. But there are so many like extremely generous, charitable. I mean, you want to talk about Phil Hellmuth. He might explode at you at the table, but he is one of the most giving and generous people that I know. So, and I think it's for very much the same reasons. It's like once you get to a level, it's like, like what we're doing has no positive purpose or impact in the long run on anyone but
Yeah.
ourselves, you know? And so that's why the business, yeah, it's a business, and but more importantly for me it was a way to have kind of a platform to get into these community events, to volunteer a lot of our time, to kind of show everything that I do. And this is going to sound like I should say this, but it's the truth. Everything that I do is for the purpose of raising my daughter and showing her that it doesn't matter. You can be a woman, you can be a minority, you can be crazy,
Amen.
you can go off the path, you can do things that are outside the box. You can do whatever you want. And um so, a lot of like what I do and the decisions that I make are based on that specifically. Being a poker player to her and her friends right now is cool. And they all had a watch party together. Can
That's
you imagine
awesome.
like 10 like teenage girls like not having anything, knowing nothing what's going on, but just cheering if the chips come my way. But yeah, just you know, it's cool to her and her friends, but it's also like I need to keep her balanced too. Like
Yeah.
you don't just get to, hey mom, we're going shopping now that you won 600,000. It's like she we her dad and I have really tried to raise her in a way of like um poker is poker. It's a game. It's fun. It's how we make money. But like, this is also real life, and putting her in real life situations and keeping her balanced like that.
Oh,
So
well, that's what you should do now. So that's okay. So you need to put parental controls on her for getting to Hendon Mob or the WSOP site.
I know,
And then
I
you just
know,
and then you
right?
just come home and say, I want a little. I just want a little. But she can't see what the
Yeah,
wins were.
it's crazy how much her meter of asking goes up when she sees, because to even at 16, the value of the dollar isn't really even quite clicking yet. It's like,
See, we were all
um,
celebrating the achievement of the last standing woman in third place in the PPC, and your daughter was sitting there going, I wonder what kind of purse I want to buy next.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I
That's
will say
cute.
she's a really good kid, and she has a little bit of concept with like um she's actually pretty conservative when it comes to spending, but that's because I've been like, no, money just doesn't come like, come and go like that. It may seem like that in poker because you get these wins get glorified, and like last year when I went to the series and lost, 85,000 or whatever it was, like those losses don't get glorified. So
That's
it's
right.
like, you know what I mean?
And I
So
do have to
it's
say something else about you, E-TAY. You just said a lot of things that I hope the audience knows that poker players have good souls.
yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, people on the outskirts, right now you're seeing it with this big, beautiful bill. You're seeing society saying, oh, who cares about the gamblers? Who cares about the poker players?
Right,
Poker
right,
players do a lot of
exactly.
good in this world. I've even heard a story
Yeah.
about you that proves you have a
Yeah.
good soul that I did not believe when I heard it, but I heard that there was a gentleman losing a lot of hands one night, and perhaps allegedly you mucked a winning hand just so he could win one pot.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this like trend going on Twitter right now, like say a story of like whatever. And I'm
Yeah,
not
your
like a
poker
huge like
lore.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I actually that's what immediately came to my mind is yeah, and for that, yeah, the guy was he's an angry old man, but he was getting his head kicked in and just losing hand after hand after hand after hand, and it was pretty big. It was a pretty big pot, but I had said like, oh, I have aces, and he had like kings up, and I realized right away that I had aces up, and I just didn't say anything, and I get killed over that because people always tell me like people say that like I let myself kind of get taken advantage of sometimes because like in those situations I am going to err on the side of like being too nice and whatever, but again, I'm not at the level of like I'm a diehard, I gotta beat you every hand and like I gotta take every edge. Like no one will ever say that about me. And maybe that's gonna cost me equity in like certain times, but like as far as like who I am like in life and like the kind of person that I want to be and the kind of especially if I have a presence or a stage to speak on or to be watched on or whatever, like it's kind of like, what kind of person do I want to be in that environment and show like my daughter's
Yeah.
friends, like that kind of stuff for me is, I don't know, it's more valuable to me than like losing this $15,000 to this guy who, first of all, I made the mistake by saying, I had one pair, and then like he's getting his head kicked in and like whatever. And like it's a lot of money, right? But like at the end of the day, and honestly, at the end of my life, like those small things and like pushing tiny edges and just being an asshole to try to gain a small edge is like just something that I'm not going to do.
Yeah.
And if it costs me money in the long run, so be it. But I think I get a lot more value out of like the respect that I kind of get from my peers, and if, yeah, if you just get to know me or we just have a conversation. And that's why for me it's just so important to talk to people at the table, and like because everyone does have a story, and there is so much history and background to people that you're never going to garner in like playing a tournament, poker tournament with them. But I could name like thousands of stories of people, like just normal people that I've talked to. I mean, I've talked to a guy in Florida 2 years ago that told me he had 4 months to live. And it's like that was one of the most pivotal and important experiences of my life, because he told me after we had been playing together and like kind of shooting the shit and having fun like we always do, just amazing guy. And we just, kind of started talking about deeper things. And then like, an hour into it, he tells me this, and I was floored because I was just like, what kind of human has this kind of like outlook and attitude on life and just treats others with respect at the table and is making this experience fun, and then is facing like death in 4 months. And I could tell you hundreds and maybe thousands of stories like that from poker players, just literally getting to know somebody, or like what you see on TV and what you see on Poker Go and what you see on Twitter and like blah blah, like that is like a scintilla of like who poker players are.
That's right.
Like there's depth and there's soul, and we have emotions, even though like a lot of people don't show them really. But like we're human beings. Like there's a human nature and a human aspect in there. And if you want to talk about, I think that's the majority. I don't think the minority is like what gets highlighted, and the scumminess and the cheating and the treating others bad. I think that's actually the minority. It just gets highlighted more like anything,
Of course. Of
but
course.
yeah, the message is that everyone that I interact with for the most part are truly incredible human beings.
You know,
And a lot of them have become like family to me. So
there's so much you can learn at the poker table, the camaraderie, the community, how, just interactions. Back in the day in the early 2000s, I was playing a lot of backroom places around Nashville and Birmingham. Cops would
oh,
come,
nice.
they would get robbed. Some games got robbed. One place, a dealer even ended up getting shot during a robbery. So you had
Wow.
some risk, but what came with that risk was you got to sit at the table with a lot of old school cats and some young people like myself at that time, and you met everyone from everywhere, and everyone had a story, and there's the greatest stories in the world. So
Yes,
it's
truly.
it's the best. So it's kind of what you say, like in these back room card rooms, and it's what you don't get with online poker is like the idea of sitting listening to stories from 50 years ago and
Yeah.
so much wisdom. People at those,
Yeah.
because sometimes poker players, they're the
Exactly.
outlaws, they're the misfits. They're like the guys in the pool halls. But that's what drew me to
Yeah.
poker is all the characters.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I got into golf like 7, 8 years ago. And I found like it was very similar to poker in every aspect. And also that like, again, didn't have to be a certain size, height, age, race, whatever. And so I really got into it. And what's interesting is I remember when I was first learning like the etiquette of everything and like, you're kind of like learning the culture of golf. And it's like, oh yeah, there's an etiquette of this and that. But I remember in like the first year, one of the biggest things that stood out to me is like the people that you meet on the golf course. And I remember somebody saying $1 million deals are made all across the world on
Hmm.
the golf course. And why is that? It's because you're in a group with people that have a very common interest, but they have huge lives out in the real world, right? So, like somebody like me can be, and this has happened, can be golfing with like the CEO of a billion-dollar company because we just have something in common that we're doing that we like to do, like as a hobby. And then, like, you're together with that person for what, 4 to 6 hours? And you like get into conversations and then you start learning about their families and you start talking business. And then, of course, I can see how $1 million deals are made on the golf course. It's the same in poker.
Yeah.
Like you would never meet these people. You would never come across these humans, these individuals. And then you sit at a poker table with them for 10 hours and you're kind of if you want to talk to somebody, which I hope you do, like you get to know somebody's background and story and then the cycle just keeps going and then you like, I mean, I've had incredible things happen with me through people that I've met at the poker table. Legitimately, incredible things. Incredible business deals, incredible opportunities just simply by having a conversation with a stranger at a poker table and genuinely like wanting to get to know their story and who they are.
That's amazing.
And like you said, for the most part, I would say 90% of these people, once you get in there, some are tough to get through,
Of course.
you got to really work at it. But once you get in there, the souls of most people are very, very good, and there's very good and giving human beings in our industry. So that I really think that needs to be highlighted more.
It certainly does, and I'm glad that you've brought it up numerous times throughout this podcast. I know I've kept you longer than I should have probably, but it's been
No,
a
it's okay. I talk a lot. I like to ramble,
well.
so
I love
you can cut me out.
no
Cut me out.
no listening to you talk poker has been a lot of fun for me, and your philosophy on life. Do you mind if I ask
Yeah.
you a couple of random, just kind of quick fire questions
Yeah.
to kind of finish
Yeah,
it
of
up?
course.
Okay,
Yeah, no problem.
so for E-TAY, who is on your Mount Rushmore of poker?
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's four people,
Yeah,
right? Um, wow, that's really tough. Are we just talking poker skill?
poker
Or
skill, or
okay.
according to E-TAY, just based on the people you admire the most.
I think I think this year I really want to put Ben Lamb on there.
Mm-hmm.
Um I and him and I have been friendly like a long time. I'm friends with his wife, but like we haven't spent a ton of time at the table, barely any time off the table. But we played a lot of poker this summer, and I was genuinely just astonished by how good he is at every game, at every level, in every scenario. Like, I was genuinely, I think I had mentioned it to several people through the summer, just how genuinely impressed I was by him. I don't know if he's like my career Mount Rushmore, but I know that I would put him on there right now. I think Phil Ivey goes there because I just have always like watched him and had a ton of respect for him. Um, I have to put Sean Deeb on there. He's like one of my closest friends in poker, and even though he has the ego the size of Alaska, um, he just has to have credit for being like maybe the best tournament player in the world. Definitely the best tournament player if we're talking across all variants for sure. And then I really just, you know, I think I'm just going to throw Chrissy on there because I need to learn No Limit better. And I have watched her, and she is phenomenal player. She plays at a very high level. Um, and she just always keeps her composure. She's extremely skilled. Um, And then outside of that, she's just a really incredible human being. She's a really, really incredible person. I've just watched her and observed her, and her and I are good friends, so she's probably gonna like be like, what the hell? But like I truly mean that because I just sit back and observe a lot of times. I observe people and I'm like I've never seen her treat a player bad. She just handles herself with such class, respect. But she's a killer.
Is
She's
that
a killer.
who you drew in first round of the heads up?
No, that's Casey Lynn
Oh,
Mills. So I'm
okay.
talking about Kristen Foxen.
Oh, Alex's
Um,
wife.
sorry, yes,
Yeah.
Chris, I know her as Chrissy Bicknell, but yeah, Chrissy Foxen. Um, Yeah, she is I'm gonna throw her on there since this is like, rapid fire, but I truly mean that. And I told her for years, I was like, I really want to teach you mix because you would be a killer. So we kind of go back and forth and I think we're gonna make an agreement. She helps me with no limit and I help her with mix. But anyway, other than that, she deserves to be on there and she is an absolute class act and I more for me that's more important, but like skill wise, she's an absolute killer crusher. I could see her playing any level of no limit poker all the way up to like maybe eventually they'll have like a $10 million buy-in. Who knows? But
By the
I
way,
would throw her in there for sure.
by the way, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, no, you're good.
In case Sean Deep hears this, congratulations on Player of the Year. You earned it, and don't worry about all the
Yes, I
noise.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. His head's too big to worry about it. But yeah, no, he did earn it. So we're very proud of him and he was really sweating it at the last couple of days there. So Team Sean Deeb was like, we're like following all the players that are like close to him and stuff. But yeah, he again, people have I know I'm rambling, but people have perspectives of Sean because all they see is, his ridiculous takes on Twitter and like his big ego. But at the end of the day, again, Sean is an incredible, generous, wonderful human being, gives a ton back. He doesn't need to talk about it but takes care of his family, huge family back home. He's an incredible person. I have to say that because I don't think that's how he's described in the poker world. Deservedly so. But you take him outside of the dome of poker and he deserves to be honored for all of that stuff too. So and his wife and family.
Okay, so the next one. We're just getting hypothetical here. So
Okay.
your heads up for the main event. Who's your dream
Okay.
heads up opponent?
Oh Lord. Um, I think I would rather play somebody who's decent at poker versus like a complete amateur just because they're such a wild card. Um, heads up. God, it's really hard. I'm gonna say Justin Liberto
Okay.
because he's like one of my best friends in poker, and it's like he's very good at no limit. Um, and I would just love to be there with him because then I would know like one of us is winning.
Well, I was even going to ask,
Um,
like, if you had happened to lose to this person, you could still feel some level of joy for them. So that's a
exactly.
good one.
Yeah, I think off of my head it's Justin Liberto. I think he's probably one of my best friends in poker. And he's one of the best tournament no limit players in the world. So it'd be kind of cool to like play him and play at like a high level on that stage and then like you said like one of us gets to win so it's a win-win.
What would you rather win, the 50K PPC or the main event?
um it's gonna have to be the main event. The 50K, if you ask me which is more prestigious, I would say the 50K, and it's not close. And that the only reason is because you're playing 9 variants of poker over 5 days against the best players in the world. And the main event, you're playing no limit hold'em. You're playing one game, and you're playing against along the way. You're playing against an insane amount of amateurs, right? So,
AKA
um,
landmines.
Yeah, I would rather win the main event. It's just, that's just something that, like, first of all, it's going to be very hard for a woman to win it. Do I think it's going to happen eventually? I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime, maybe, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Even Leo getting there, she was actually a very good candidate. Not saying I could name a handful of women that are good candidates, but she was an extremely good candidate because she has the experience. She's a very good no limit player, and she's been there in those deep runs in the main event. So she might be she might be our closest that we've had, besides Chrissy last year. If Chrissy made that final table, like, that might have been like the historic life changing situation because she definitely has the ability to win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it has to be the main event because even with those two killers getting all the way there, it's just so hard. It's just so hard to get through a field of 10,000 players for 10 days and end up the last person. So for me, it would have to be the main event to win, prefer to win, and the 50K as far as like respect from peers and prestige.
Or perhaps you just do what Grinder did and win both next year.
Well, I would have to have like 50,000 horseshoes inside my body to be able to do that. But I'm pretty lucky, like in life in general. So, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, I don't think, but it's highly unlikely.
It would be pretty cool if it happened back to back years.
Yeah.
Okay. And then last one, best music at the poker table.
Best music for me at the poker table is probably I made this like running playlist. I ran this like 10 miler in Philly, which I'll never do again. But I had made this like running, like pump up, like playlist. And so that's probably it for me, just kind of getting pumped up. And it's kind of like, like there's like Eye of the Tiger on
Oh,
there
yeah.
and like Man Eater, like, just things like that are like, I'm like getting myself pumped up and ready to go. So I've been trying to like, I try to not have my headphones in too much, but there are moments where I like need some downtime and whatever. But definitely in the beginning when I sit down, I'm really trying to, like we've talked about all day, is like just, get information from people and talk to people and, you know, the Daniel Negreanu is what I call it, like really getting a lot of info from people, especially in the first hour or so. But
Uh, and just to wrap this up, we talked about the NBC Heads Up earlier. So that's going to be airing. I'm trying to do some promotion for you. So you have NBC Heads
yeah.
Up on Peacock and Poker Go coming up this fall.
Yes, it's coming up this fall. We had to sign our lives away where we cannot talk about it.
Okay.
And so what I can say is, yeah, they invited 64 poker players, celebrities, some old school players, and yeah, we played bracket play, and it was at Poker Go Studio, and it was presented by Poker Stars, and this was the first year they've done it in over 10 years because NBC had that contract with them. And then I guess they just signed a new one with Peacock, and which is very good because it brings back one of the most like anticipated to watch on television poker tournaments, and it was done and presented very well. So I'm excited for it to air.
Yeah, it's indicative of a second poker boom, I think. It's weird. I think there was a poker boom after 9/11 starting in 2003. And I think this poker
Yeah,
boom's coming after COVID, which is
I totally agree with you.
it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
interesting when these sociological moments happen in our society
yeah,
and people
yeah.
kind of lean towards gambling, poker, having fun,
Yep.
remembering to enjoy life because it could be very short.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my God, I totally agree with you. And I think it took a while after COVID because I think we were all just unsure of like what was acceptable to be doing and what
Right.
wasn't for a long time. And so, but yeah, I think we're not fully free and clear, but I had just seen it on Twitter, like they said the win or something, they're not allowing even employees to wear masks anymore. So like I think we're finally kind of getting to, and I'm not like political with that stuff at all, so like wear a mask, don't, I don't, it doesn't, I just do what is best for me. But I think we're finally kind of turning the corner of like everyone feels okay to like live again and to sit in big convention centers and play poker together. And so I totally agree with you with that. I think poker is just something where you're going to see a lot of reignited booms a lot. You know, it's like because there's just so many interesting characters. Like Grinder doing what he did this summer
Yeah.
is bringing its own boom in itself, you know. And then like next year we're gonna, you know, if I talk to you next year, it's like we're gonna have like 100 more things to talk about.
Yeah.
Like it'll probably be some other woman doing something insane and crazy, and you know, like so that's also another beautiful aspect of poker. It's never a dull moment. And I think we're just with there's always new waves of characters coming in and out, so it's just like I think we're always going to kind of, you know, have something to show the fans and the people. And I don't think it's ever going to fully die down.
Well, I
So
feel about what you just said about maybe next year coming on, you open the door, they're coming on again. And that's the coolest thing I've ever heard because you're one of my favorite guests ever already.
oh, thank you. Maybe I'll come on before we can talk about like the
Yeah, let's
before
do before and
aspect of
after for
it. Yeah.
sure. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, I enjoy this. I ramble a lot, so you can edit me out
Well,
a lot.
no, I don't do any editing. I just come to listen to the guests and try to learn. And you've taught me and a lot of people a lot today. And I'm really grateful for you, E-TAY.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate being able to speak, you know, freely, and it was a lot of fun. So,
By the way, and like I said earlier, hang out for a moment after, but please real quick, promote
yeah.
your socials if you want to tell people how to follow you.
Okay. Well, that's one thing I need to get a little bit better at is like putting my stuff out there. But yeah, so I'm on Twitter at E-TAY, at E_Tay. See, this is how bad I am. And then Instagram, I actually just started a poker one because I was feeling my personal one is all my daughter mainly. And so my poker one is E-TAY Poker. That one's easy. And then yeah, you can find me on Facebook and honestly, like I love chatting with people and interacting, so I'm always open to if you message me or have want to talk poker, I'm totally cool with that. But yeah,
All right.
that's
Well,
about it.
I can attest. I follow you on Instagram. I send a message and cross my fingers.
Yep.
And what a blessing to have you on.
Ye- Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, y'all. That's the end of the podcast. Appreciate y'all watching, and we will see you next time.
See ya.